You were taught to fight on the wrong battlefield. You were trained to spend your strength where it bleeds you most, in your reactions, not in your effort, not in your planning, not in your growth. No, in your outbursts, in your late-night explanations, in your angry paragraphs. You've been taught to believe that whoever triggers you controls you. And then life proved it to you, again and again, until suffering felt like your shadow and chaos like your home. Listen carefully. There is a weapon older than pride and sharper than rage. The ancient Stoics wielded it like a hidden blade, and modern psychology mapped its mechanics in clinical language. It is not noise. It is not performance. It is not revenge as the world knows it. It is indifference, the disciplined kind. It is silence, the principled kind. It is detachment, the intelligent kind. This is not a trick. This is a transformation. And by the end of this, if you choose to practice what you hear, you will not merely win arguments you never speak. You will become unreachable to the people who once fed on your storms. Let's tell the truth from the start. Toxic people do not simply harm, they harvest. They plant a scene and wait for your reaction to water it. They take a small slight and bait you into turning it into a theater. They starve you of clarity so you will feast on their crumbs. They create a silence and possess your mind through the noise you create in it. Why? Because attention is energy, and energy is power. In psychology, we measure this in patterns, reinforcement schedules, emotional arousal, cognitive loops. In Stoicism, we call it misplaced assent. The mind is habit of granting external events the right to define its inner state. When you react compulsively, you hand over key after key until your own house feels like anyone can walk in. Here is your first correction. Your mind is not a hallway. It is a fortress. And the gate is your response. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He did not write this as a pretty sentence. He wrote it as a military order to himself. The brain obeys repeated commands. The one you repeat becomes your life. Manipulators thrive on proof that they still live in your head. Proof that your nervous system still orbits their gravity. Psychologically, this proof is called narcissistic supply, the stream of attention, positive or negative, that confirms significance. Your anger feeds it. Your confusion feeds it. Your need for closure feeds it. To them, your breakdown is confirmation that they remain central. The spotlight returns to the stage where they stand. To you, it looks like speaking truth to injustice. To them, it is you advertising that you are still available to be controlled. The Stoics saw this problem centuries before psychology named it. They drilled a single distinction deep into the bone. What is up to me and what is not? Reactions are up to me. Provocations are not. When the distinction is blurred, you become everybody's puppet. When the distinction is clear, you become nobody's prey. Silence is not empty. Silence is a boundary in soundless ink. It is a refusal to co-author a script written to humiliate you. In behavioral psychology, silence is extinction. the removal of reinforcement that makes a behavior wither. Drama is a behavior. Without attention, it dies. But here's the discipline. Silence cuts only when it's real. Counterfeit silence, where you wait with held breath for them to chase you, still funds the show. Authentic silence ends the show because you stop buying tickets. You no longer sit in the theater. You walk out and build a life outside. Epictetus would not argue in the marketplace of insults. He would point to his life. If someone speaks ill of you, he said in essence, live so well that no one believes them. That is the Stoic contract. Don't correct their words, correct your course. Your results become your rebuttal. Indifference is not apathy. Apathy is a wound pretending to be armor. Indifference is armor that does not need to pretend. Apathy hides from feeling. Indifference feels deeply and refuses to be ruled. The Stoics called this apatheia, not numbness, but freedom from destructive passions, the kind that whirl you until you don't know your own voice from the crowds. In psychological terms, indifference is the cessation of contingent self-worth. You no longer outsource your value to another's opinion, response, or silence. Your nervous system stops asking permission to be calm. Your calendar stops orbiting their storms. Your progress stops pausing at their name. Why does this devastate manipulators? Because it declares a fundamental, terrifying message. You are no longer a reference point. It is the true end of a relationship, not when people stop speaking, but when one person stops being a measuring stick in the other's mind. You have an energy account. Every angry text is a withdrawal from your peace. Every midnight rant is a loan with predatory interest against your future focus. Every plea for closure is a wire transfer of dignity to someone who has shown you they don't bank it. Stop financing what starves you. The Stoic knows. Attention is allocation. What you attend to, you strengthen. What you ignore, you starve. Modern neuroscience adds that attention shapes neural pathways. Repeated focus carves grooves the mind slips into automatically. If your mind is a river, attention is gravity. Give gravity to what you want to grow. Deny it to what you want to die. Here is your ledger. Attention to provocation gives stronger reactivity. Attention to practice gives stronger regulation. Attention to philosophy gives stronger perspective. Attention to results gives stronger credibility. Attention to silence gives weaker drama. Revenge feels righteous for 10 minutes, and then rents your mind for 10 months. The Stoics refused it not because they were weak, but because they were unwilling to be owned by their enemies through fixation. Marcus Aurelius, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Psychology agrees. Rumination obsessive focus on wrongs correlates with anxiety, depression, impaired problem solving. Revenge is a loop disguised as a door. Liberation is the only exit. Liberation means, I remove you from my inner government. I fire you from the role of judge, jury, and executioner. I no longer hold meetings in my head where your opinion resides. This is not leniency. This is sovereignty. Here is the exact loop that keeps you trapped. They provoke a jab, a withdrawal, an ambiguity. You react, anger, pleading, life on pause. They feel powerful. Your reaction confirms relevance. You feel ashamed. You bled integrity for attention. It repeats. The reward structure is intact. Behavioral psychology names the engine: intermittent reinforcement. You do not get closure every time, only sometimes. This randomness makes you chase harder. The casino learned it. Manipulators practice it. Breaking the cycle requires ritualized discipline. Delay. Insert time before any reply. 10 breaths, 10 minutes, 10 hours, whatever keeps the mind sovereign. Reframe. They revealed their character, not mine. Redirect. Move energy from texting to training, from rumination to journaling, from surveillance to skill building. Detach. Your outcome is your growth, not their regret. Repeat. The nervous system learns by repetition, not by epiphany. Boundaries are not punishments. Boundaries are property lines. They are the blueprint of your inner city, where roads enter, where gates close, where noise cannot pass. A Stoic boundary is silent and enforced. No warnings, no lectures. You decide what behaviors cost access. You decide what energy merits reply. You decide which invitations your peace can afford. Enforcement is not rage. It is routine. Doors either lock or they do not. In clinical terms, boundaries protect against enmeshment, where other people's emotions become your obligations. You are not the regulator of their storm. You are the steward of your sky. Detachment is trained. Not once, not someday daily. The tools are simple and difficult. Observation over identification. A thought is present, replaces I am this thought. Label the urge. This is the urge to explain. This is the urge to check. Naming an urge separates you from it. Body first. Slow the breath. Soften the jaw. Lower the shoulders. Physiology is the keyboard of the nervous system. Tiny denials, micro refusals build macro control. Skip the impulse once a day. Watch the muscle grow. The Stoics trained through premeditation. Imagine the provocations before they arrive. Decide your response while calm. When the event comes, you are reading from your own script. Being needed flatters the wound. Being wanted honors the self. People who need you often need your function. They require your listening, your money, your time. When the emergency ends, so does the relationship. People who want your presence. They choose you when the fires are out. The Stoic refuses to anchor identity in being the rescuer. Psychology warns, rescuer often masks a covert contract. If I save you, you will value me. That contract is shadow manipulation. It breeds resentment because its terms were never spoken. And it attracts chaos, because chaos is where rescuers feel irreplaceable. You are not a remedy. You are a person. Withdraw from relationships that mistake your humanity for a service. This is not poetry. This is practice. These 7 stages are not to be admired. They are to be executed. Stage 1. Inventory of harm. Write what happened. Facts only. Remove adjectives. Pain thrives in embellishment. Clarity empties it of drama. Stage 2. Control audit, draw 2 columns, control, no control. Place every item where it belongs. Your reactions go in control. Their decisions go in no control. Live in the left column. Ignore the right. Stage 3. Ritual silence. Choose a period of principled silence. 24 hours, 72 hours, a week, when triggered. You are training the nervous system to survive without performing. Stage 4. Boundary blueprint. Define 3 non-negotiables. For example, no late-night calls, no response to insults, no re-entry without change in behavior. Enforce quietly. Stage 5. Energy reallocation. For every urge to check or text, run a substitution. 5 push-ups, 5 deep breaths, 5 lines in a journal, 5 pages of reading. You are wiring a new loop. Stage 6. Exposure to indifference. Practice being misunderstood without correcting it. Let a false narrative float by. This is advanced training. Your worth stops being hostage to others' confusion. Stage 7. Public proof, private origin. Produce results only, no announcements. The work you do in silence becomes the scoreboard. They will learn by absence of access and abundance of evidence. The X, they message at midnight. I miss you. Old pattern. Reply in seconds, reopen the wound. Stoic pattern. No reply within 24 hours minimum. If a reply is ever warranted, it is brief, neutral, logistical. No nostalgia. No therapy. No bait. The friend may betray a confidence and then play the victim. Old pattern. Confrontation marathons. Tears. Circular debates. Stoic pattern. No debate. You reassign access, fewer details shared, fewer invitations offered. You do not close the door in rage. You close it in design. The boss, they embarrass you before peers. Old pattern. Flustered defense. Email essays. Stoic pattern. Steady eye contact. Calm clarification. Written documentation. Unassailable performance. You build a record. You outlast noise with numbers. The family member, they engineer guilt to keep you pliable. Old pattern. Apology for needs. Stoic pattern. I won't be attending. Period. Not a paragraph. Repeat as needed. Love without access to your peace is not love, it is theater. Extinction is not immediate. When reinforcement disappears, behavior often escalates before it dies. Expect the spike. In psychology, this is the extinction burst, one last attempt to make the old lever pay. They will accuse, bait, dramatize, parade new illusions. Hold your line. The burst is a sign of nearing freedom, not a sign to surrender. Your nervous system will protest because it craves the known, even when the known hurts. Comfort is not kindness. Growth is not cruelty. Endure the dissonance long enough to let a new normal set. The Stoics did not deny pain. They denied pain the power to define them. Seneca. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Your imagination replays the scene because the brain tries to resolve open loops. Close the loop by finishing the story inside you. They made a choice. I make a different one. the end. Then write the next chapter with your actions, not your words. Psychology offers a technique, cognitive diffusion, seeing thoughts as thoughts, not as truths. When the mind says, "They destroyed me," reply, "I noticed the mind produced a catastrophic thought." From that distance, you can act wisely. Sovereignty is the state where your mood is not a public utility, where what happens outside is filtered by what you value inside, where your reply is chosen, not triggered. This is not coldness. It is adulthood at full power. You do not need to convince anyone. You do not need to dramatize your boundaries. You do not need to be understood to be free. Often, freedom and the need to be understood are opposites. Choose freedom. Wake before the world tells you who you are. 10 minutes of stillness. Read one Stoic line. Write one sentence. What is in my control today? Move your body. The mind obeys the body's momentum. A strong back teaches a strong boundary. Build something measurable: skills, income, health, a craft. Reality is the Stoic's favorite argument. Keep your circle boring in the best way, reliable, respectful, unentertained by drama. Treat your phone like a door, not a leash. You decide who gets a key. They may accuse you of being heartless. This is projection. Detachment looks like cruelty to those who profit from your chaos. You are not abandoning compassion. You are refusing to fund dysfunction. The Stoic heart is not cold. It is clear. It extends warmth where growth is possible and withdraws where growth is refused. Remember, boundaries that protect your peace also protect your capacity to love where love can land. Revenge is a chain because it orbits the offender. Liberation is a wing because it lifts you into a sky where they cannot breathe. You will know you are there when their name arrives and your pulse does not change. When silence is not a tactic, but a temperament. When presence replaces performance, and then an odd thing happens. The world that once fed on your reaction stops recognizing you. The bait doesn't fit your mouth. The traps gather dust. The performances lose their audience. You do not win every battle. You end the war. Make it simple. Make it daily. I will not fund my enemies with my energy. I will not explain myself to those committed to misunderstanding. I will not chase closure from those who profit by withholding it. I will convert every urge to react into a rep, a page, a line of code, a step, a brick in the life I am building. I will measure success not in their regret, but in my peace. They wanted your meltdown. Give them your absence. They wanted your essays. Give them your results. They wanted your chase. Give them your back. They wanted your pain. Give them your silence. And give yourself what you are always owed. Your own attention, your own respect, your own life constructed, guarded, and enjoyed without permission. The Stoics never promised an easy road. They promised a controllable one. You cannot stop storms. You can stop building your house out of paper. You cannot end noise. You can end your attendance. You cannot rewrite their character. You can become the author of your own. This is your fortress. This is your field. This is your mind. Choose not to be harmed, and the chain breaks. Choose not to react, and the game ends. Choose indifference, and a throne appears where your triggers used to be. Not anger, not pleading, not performance, silence, detachment, sovereignty. That is how you become untouchable. Before you can master indifference, you must dissect the anatomy of manipulation. You must see it naked, without excuses, without the costume of charm. Every manipulator, whether narcissist, opportunist, or insecure tyrant, uses the same three-part strategy. Trigger. They locate your sensitive nerve. Maybe it's your fear of abandonment, your need for approval, your craving for fairness. They don't need to create the nerve. They only need to touch it. Reaction. Once touched, you flinch. Sometimes it's visible anger, tears, protest. Sometimes invisible rumination, sleepless nights, compulsive checking. Either way, the reaction proves they control the nerve. Reinforcement. They give you just enough response to keep you hooked. A breadcrumb of apology, a fleeting moment of attention, a smile that feels like sunshine after weeks of shadow, and you stay. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. Stoics called it slavery of the passions. Both mean the same. You are ruled, not ruling. Understand this. You cannot stop them from attempting the trigger. You can stop yourself from supplying the reaction. Without your reaction, the circuit dies. A trigger without a flinch is just noise. That's why the Stoics insisted. You cannot be harmed without your consent. One of the cruelest traps toxic people set is the illusion of closure. They disappear without reason, betray without explanation, and then wait. They know your brain hates unfinished puzzles. They know your psyche craves resolution. So you run back, not for love, but for clarity. And there they are ready to sell you words that cost you more peace than they provide. Modern psychology calls this the Zeigarnik effect. Unfinished tasks cling to the mind. The Stoics already knew it. Unfinished desires cling to the soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste what remains of your life in thoughts about others." Closure is often just their bait to re-enter your mind. The only closure that frees you is the one you write yourself. They are who they are. I accept. I release. The story ends here. You don't need their confession. You don't need their recognition. You don't need their regret. You need your decision. That is closure. Anger feels powerful. It floods the body with adrenaline, quickens the voice, gives the illusion of command. But anger is a leash. It ties you to the very hand you wish to escape. Psychology confirms this. Anger narrows attention. It locks you onto the offender. While you burn, they rest easy, knowing they still live rent-free in your mind. The Stoics never denied anger exists. They denied anger the privilege of ruling. Seneca warned, anger, if not restrained, is more destructive than the injury that provokes it. Think of it this way. Every outburst is a public announcement that your strings are easy to pull. Every meltdown says, I am still programmable. Indifference, on the other hand, is unprogrammable. It announces, You no longer write the code here. Here's another weapon of the manipulator: projection. They accuse you of what they do. They label you with the very flaws they conceal. They call you selfish while demanding your sacrifice. They call you disloyal while betraying you. They call you cold while feeding on your warmth. Why does this work? Because humans are wired to defend. The instant you hear a false charge, you want to disprove it. You begin explaining, clarifying, justifying. But in doing so, you fall into their frame. You fight on their stage. Epictetus gave the remedy. If someone speaks badly of you, do not defend yourself against their judgment. Simply live so that no one believes them. Psychology echoes this. Over-defensiveness makes accusations look true. Silence and consistent behavior dismantle projection faster than arguments. Here is the part that breaks most people. When you finally stop reacting, when you cut supply manipulators, do not fade quietly. They escalate. Psychologists call this the extinction burst. When a reward disappears, the subject intensifies behavior to bring it back. Think of a gambler at a slot machine. When the machine stops paying, they don't walk away immediately. They slam the button harder. Manipulators do the same. They insult louder. They love bomb harder. They guilt trip deeper. They provoke sharper. This is the spike. And many fold here, mistaking escalation for proof that silence isn't working. No, escalation is proof that silence is working. It is the last gasp of control. Hold the line. Past the spike lies collapse. Guilt is one of their favorite weapons. Not real guilt, the moral compass that keeps society humane. No, manufactured guilt. Toxic guilt. The guilt that whispers, if you don't answer, you're cruel. If you walk away, you're heartless. If you enforce a boundary, you're selfish. Psychology calls this emotional blackmail. The Stoics called it enslavement to opinion. Both teach the cure. Refuse to let another person's narrative dictate your moral ledger. Marcus Aurelius asked himself daily, is this in accordance with nature? Is this in my control? Does this serve virtue? If the answer was yes, he acted. If the answer was no, he ignored. Do the same. Guilt that protects your integrity, keep it. Guilt that manipulates your peace, discard it. Understand this paradox. When you stop reacting, you become a mirror. They look into you and see themselves. That is what terrifies them. When you argued, your words distracted them. When you cried, your tears entertained them. When you chased, your energy flattered them. But when you go silent, they see no distraction, only the reflection of their own emptiness. Psychologists call this the collapse of narcissistic supply. Stoics call it justice without noise. You give them nothing, and nothing becomes unbearable. Detachment is not natural. The mind evolved to react quickly, fight, flight, freeze. To detach requires training. Think of it as a muscle. Every urge resisted is a rep. Every silence held is a set. Every calm breath under fire is a workout. Daily drills. Premeditatio malorum. Imagine provocations before they come. Rehearse your calm reply or your silence. Cognitive reframing. When insulted, translate it. This is information about them, not about me. Micro silences. Delay every response by at least 10 breaths. Train your nervous system to survive the pause. End of day journaling. Write. What did I control? What controlled me? Track your progress. Morning Stoic reflection. Read one Stoic passage daily. Prime the mind with philosophy before the world primes it with chaos. Over time, detachment ceases to feel like suppression. It feels like sovereignty. Let's kill the confusion. Many think detachment equals apathy. Wrong. Apathy is fear of feeling. It is shutdown. It is numbness. Detachment is freedom in feeling. You still feel, but you choose whether to act. Psychologists describe this as emotional regulation, the capacity to experience emotion without being driven by it. The Stoics lived this distinction. They wept when friends died, but they did not collapse. They felt anger rise, but they did not let anger rule. They cared deeply about virtue, about justice, about duty. But they refused to care about opinion, slander, or insult. That is detachment. Caring for what matters, ignoring what doesn't. We return here because this is the heart. Revenge is a chain. Liberation is a wing. Chains are forged by reactivity, by anger, by obsession with their downfall. Wings are forged by silence, by boundaries, by indifference, by focus on your own ascent. Psychology frames it simply: external locus of control, chains, versus internal locus of control, wings. The Stoics framed it nobly. Freedom is choosing your response. Each time you resist a provocation, you file the chain until it breaks. Each time you redirect energy into growth, you stretch the wing until it lifts. And when you finally rise, you see them below, not as enemies, not as gods, not even as villains, just as footnotes. Silence is not contained. It ripples. It unsettles them, yes. But it also reshapes you. It teaches your nervous system that survival does not require reaction. It teaches your mind that peace is self-generated, not other-dependent. It teaches your soul that dignity grows in quiet, not in noise. Over time, silence rewires you. You stop looking outward for validation. You stop dancing to other people's scripts. You start building slowly, consistently, quietly. And the irony? The more you detach, the more magnetic you become. People crave stability. In a storming world, the calm one shines. This is why Stoic detachment is not coldness. It is quiet charisma. All philosophy ends in practice. Your final test is simple. When the next insult comes, when the next bait appears, when the next guilt trip lands, will you respond out of habit, or will you respond out of mastery? Habit is slavery. Mastery is sovereignty. The choice is yours. Every day, every message, every encounter. Nothing unnerves a manipulator more than your peace. Why? Because peace is proof. Proof that they no longer matter. Proof that their hooks no longer work. Proof that their shadow no longer covers your light. Psychologists describe this as decoupling, when a stimulus no longer triggers the expected response. Think of Pavlov's dog refusing to salivate at the bell. The manipulator expects chaos. When chaos does not come, their ego collapses. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Today I escaped from all bothers, or rather I threw them out, for they were not outside, but within me, in my opinions." Peace is not passive. Peace is an act of psychological rebellion. It is not the absence of noise. It is the refusal to let noise govern your inner state. What you attend to grows. What you ignore withers. In psychology, this is called selective attention. In Stoicism, it is simply the practice of assent. You grant or deny entry to thoughts. Epictetus taught that not everything knocking at the gate deserves a welcome. When you attend to insults, you enlarge them. When you attend to praise, you become dependent on it. When you attend to your own choices, you become sovereign. Indifference is not empty, it is redirection. You are not ignoring life. You are watering what matters. Ask yourself daily, what am I growing with my attention? Another trap manipulators set, the endless demand for explanation. Why are you acting this way? Why didn't you answer? Why can't you just forgive? You begin explaining. Then you explain your explanation. Then you clarify your clarification. And still, they twist your words, because they never sought understanding. They sought energy. Psychologists call this gaslighting, where explanations become ammunition. The Stoics called it vanity caring, too much for the impressions of others. Epictetus, if someone does not accept what you say, your concern is not to convince him, but to be true. Truth does not need explanation. It needs embodiment. Stop explaining. Start embodying. Understand this. Words are currency. Each one you spend funds someone's power. When you shout, you pay them. When you justify, you pay them. When you confess, you pay them. The Stoics valued words like coins. They spent sparingly, deliberately. Silence was their savings account. Psychology confirms, over-disclosure breeds vulnerability to exploitation. The less disciplined your speech, the more predictable your weaknesses. Practice verbal minimalism. Speak less. Say only what serves clarity, duty, or truth. Your silence will bankrupt manipulators faster than any speech. Insults are their favorite arrows, but arrows only pierce when you offer flesh. The Stoics had a threefold method. Reframe. Is this true? If yes, I should change. If no, why be disturbed? Reduce. This is merely a sound, a vibration of air. It cannot harm me. Refuse. If the speaker is contemptible, why value his contempt? Psychology adds, insults lose force when met with neutrality. Reactivity reinforces. Indifference dissolves. Your task. Treat insults like passing weather. A storm does not deserve a reply. It deserves an umbrella. One of the greatest drains is rumination, the endless replay of the wound. Why did they do it? What if I had said this instead? Will they regret it someday? Psychology shows rumination deepens depression, fuels anxiety, and keeps the nervous system locked in stress. The Stoics prescribed journaling as the cure. Seneca wrote letters to himself nightly, discharging the day onto paper so the mind could rest. Write it out once, then burn the page. Better to lose ink than to lose peace. Remember, rumination is self-inflicted manipulation. They don't even need to text you. You supply the torment yourself. The manipulator feeds not only on your emotion, but on your time. Every hour wasted in argument is an hour stolen from growth. Marcus Aurelius lamented, "You are afraid of dying, but you waste life as though you had endless time." Psychologists echo, time is the ultimate non-renewable resource. Where your hours go, your life goes. Redirect your time. Every urge to argue is a chance to practice. Every impulse to check is a moment to train. Every wasted hour can be reclaimed for reading, for building, for strengthening. Indifference is time economy. Premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils, was the Stoic drill of imagining provocations before they occurred. Today I will meet people who are arrogant, deceitful, selfish, Marcus wrote. By expecting it, he denied it the power of surprise. Psychology calls this exposure preparation, visualizing triggers in advance, so the nervous system is less reactive when they occur. Practice this daily. Expect betrayal, insult, manipulation. Then rehearse your calm. When the moment arrives, you are not shocked. You are ready. Here lies the central psychological shift. Reactivity is impulse-driven. It is the nervous system hijacking reason. Response is value-driven. It is reason commanding the nervous system. The Stoics aimed for response, never reactivity. They trained the pause, the sacred second between stimulus and reply. Psychology confirms this pause is the seat of self-regulation. It lowers cortisol, prevents regret, preserves dignity. Your new mantra: pause first, respond second. Sometimes not at all. Toxic people manipulate by making your worth conditional on their approval, their attention, their mood. The Stoics ripped worth away from condition. To them, worth rested in virtue and living according to reason and nature, not in pleasing others. Epictetus: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Psychology agrees. Contingent self-worth breeds anxiety. Authentic self-worth rooted in principle breeds resilience. Stop asking, do they value me? Start asking, am I living my values? That question cannot be manipulated. Here is the truth most won't tell you. Detachment is lonely at first. When you stop reacting, the noise vanishes. The constant drama disappears. The false bonds dissolve. What remains is silence, and silence feels empty. Psychologists call this withdrawal discomfort, the pain of losing a familiar pattern, even when toxic. The Stoics called it solitude, a fertile ground where character grows. Endure the loneliness. It is not emptiness. It is clearing. In time, new, healthier bonds will form. But first, the weeds must die. When you detach, your energy is reclaimed. But where does it go? The Stoics redirected it to duty, virtue, craft. Psychology says the same. Focus on meaningful goals heals attachment wounds faster than any closure conversation. Instead of obsessing, build. Instead of chasing, create. Instead of proving, progress. Every hour you once wasted in breakdowns can be invested in skills and health, in relationships that respect you. This is how indifference becomes not just defense, but power. There is a paradox. The less you chase respect, the more you command it. Psychology calls this non-neediness a signal of stability that makes people trust and admire you. Stoicism called it self-sufficiency. When you are indifferent to praise and insult alike, you radiate equilibrium, and equilibrium is magnetic. People feel safe around the unshuckable. This is why your silence will not only repel the toxic, it will draw the worthy. Detachment does not mean lovelessness. It means loving without slavery. Seneca wrote, "He who has learned to die has unlearned to serve." The same is true of love. He who has learned to detach has unlearned to cling. Psychology confirms. Secure attachment means you can love deeply without losing yourself. You can care without being consumed. Detachment teaches you to love by choice, not by chain. To give freely, not desperately. To walk away when respect ends, without hate, without collapse. You will know you have mastered Stoic indifference when you can face them without trembling. Not because you hate them, not because you fear them, but because you feel nothing at all. The insult lands and dies. The bait drops and rots. The guilt trip echoes and fades. Psychology would call this extinction. The Stoics would call it freedom. You will call it peace. Etch this into your heart. My peace is mine alone. My silence is not weakness, but discipline. My indifference is not emptiness, but mastery. My worth is not contingent, but inherent. My time is not for drama, but for duty. My love is not desperation, but choice. And above all, no one commands my mind but me. This is the state you are training toward. The untouchable, not because you built walls, but because you built wings. They still throw words, but you float above. They still set traps, but you no longer walk the path. They still wait for breakdowns, but you are already building breakthroughs. Psychology describes resilience. Stoicism describes tranquility. You will live both. You now hold the framework. Silence, indifference, detachment, discipline. Philosophy and psychology aligned. The challenge is simple, brutal, liberating. Live it. Every urge resisted is a rep. Every silence kept is a victory. Every boundary held is a crown. Do this, and one day they will still be waiting for your breakdown, while you will already be free.